Greetings, gumshoes. Welcome back to another episode of Silver Screen Sleuths, the podcast whose name I have to slow down every single time I say it because I wasn't thinking when I named the damn show. I am Emily Edwards, and I'm your host, and we are here today with Michelle Kubitz. How the hell are you?
I am doing okay. Thank you so much for asking, and thank you for inviting me onto this show. I'm excited to be here.
So excited to chat with you. I met you in person at Left Coast Crime earlier in 2026. And it was you were so nice. I was scared out of my mind. And you were just like, hello, friend. How are you? And I was like, yay.
Thank you. Well, that's see exactly. It costs nothing to be kind.
You're
Well, I
so
mean, it
sweet.
costs some things, but I love people. I like to be friendly. So
Yeah. No, I
it was
appreciate
wonderful
that.
meeting you.
It was so nice to meet you. And I do have to say that, I love talking about mystery movies with mystery writers and mystery authors. So can you give us a little bit of rundown on what you write, what you do, what's going on with the careers?
I have a couple different hats. I do still have a day job. I had a short story that was published a million years ago, it feels like. And so short story is kind of my jam. I serve on the gauntlet for Shotgun Honey. That's where we look at the slush pile of flash fiction that comes in. And also later this year in September, I have an anthology of stories coming out that I'm co-editing with Lawrence Allen, who I believe was also a guest on your show.
Yes, he was.
And yeah, it's an anthology called Daydream Believer, and it's crime stories that are inspired by the songs of the Monkees.
Awesome.
So that has been such a fun process. Otherwise, in terms of writing, I am part of the great unpublished and trying to, get the book written, query agents and all that fun stuff.
You are not unpublished. Short stories
That's
count
true.
as publishing. It's so difficult. You have so many constraints. It's so hard to do.
Well, and it's amazing, and that's been part of the fun with Shotgun Honey and the Gauntlet, because that's 700 words. And it amazes me sometimes what you can see people accomplish in 700 words. And the other thing that I love about the mystery genre in general, we have, I think, some of the best short story writers, just full stop.
But I think that one of the things that we're going to dig into in this episode when I'm talking about Rian Johnson's Knives Out is that mystery was really treated for, I don't know, 50 years as like a really sort of subgenre. People didn't give it consideration. It was things for fluffy old ladies. It was British television shows. It was an unserious genre of work for, probably since like the 1950s when whodunit movies really fell out of vogue all the way up, I think, until Rian Johnson's career, where he has clearly set himself up to revive the noir mystery, revive the private investigator, even going back into his first movie with Brick and things like that. This was a genre that really did not get a ton of respect. And I'm excited to talk about these films with other writers because we know how much we can do with the framework of mystery.
Absolutely. And to your point too, I think that it is so exciting to see this resurgence and to really again to see it also come alive in movies, because I think even though, this harkens back to, it's an homage to Agatha Christie or whatever, whatever comparison people want to make it to, it revives it for a whole new generation, and especially with somebody like Rian Johnson who has a fan base. Really, again, as somebody who has, I have kids of my own, the idea that they're going to look back at this and watch it and be like, oh yeah, I think I can do that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I love about mystery, and that's what I love about, you always hear about, where do people discover? Is it Nancy Drew? Is it Trixie Belden? Is it the Hardy Boys?
Trixie.
I love
You're
Trixie
the
Belden. I am a
first
Trixie
name drop
Belden.
of Trixie Belden on the show.
You're kidding me. Oh, so, it's so funny. That is what, because everyone's like, oh, are you a Nancy Drew? I'm like, oh, I'm a Trixie Belden.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my family growing up. my grandfather was an auctioneer, and we would always get these boxes of books, and they were always, something that came out of grandma's attic. And
Yep.
so for me, I always, like, for some strange reason, big in the Midwest, Trixie Belden. So,
Huge, huge. Like, I remember my elementary school library only had, like, a handful of Trixie Beldens. Of course, they had all the Nancy Drews, and I was just
of
like,
course.
"Nancy does very little for me," and I'd have never been able to figure out why, but I read the Trixie Beldens I had access to. I've mentioned this before on the show, but my big one was the Babysitters Club mysteries that were the
Yes.
spinoff. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Oh
read
my
all of
gosh. I mean,
those.
but isn't it great? I mean, the thing is like, I think every generation, I hope that every generation has something where they can, like, that gateway drug into
Yes, yes.
to the
You know,
mysteries.
it's so fun, and, like, I love the fact that movies like Knives Out, they are surprisingly approachable for, like, tweens and teens. Like, if you're really concerned about, like, what your kids watch on television and in movies, like, Knives Out is surprisingly child appropriate.
Right. Well, but and also though too, generational because like that is something like I don't think that I ever watched that movie with my parents who some they're boomers, but when you think about that cast and like who all they brought out,
Yeah.
that is like because okay, so I will tell you, I was so excited about Knives Out because there is this very strange intersection of loves for me and it is Christopher Plummer.
Yes.
It
Oh my god.
is I love Christopher Plummer. Christopher Plummer, Gordon Lightfoot, Sundown.
Right?
Oh my gosh, I'm a huge Gordon Lightfoot fan. I remember watching that movie, and I remember when that song queued up, and my husband knows I'm a huge Gordon Lightfoot fan. He's just like, "Okay, you're gone." I'm like,
Yep.
"Oh." I mean, perfect song, perfect moment. And then I like Daniel Craig, so I mean, just like that movie's and
Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
I know, and I have to admit that I am the perfect age for the fact that my first movie star crush ever was Chris Evans. I was so in love with him when I was 15 years old. He had a terrible, terrible Fox comedy television show where he was like one of the first 3 boys who got going to an all-girls school, and it was him, Milo Ventimiglia, and, like, some other and it was, like, the
Okay.
hijinks that these 3 hot guys get into being the first 3 boys in an all-girls school that's integrating, and I was so in love with him, it was ridiculous, and, like, when I saw that he was gonna be doing this and not, like, Captain America, which is for me kind of boring, like, I was so excited. I was just like, "Oh my god, this is like I've been waiting for this my entire life." And, like, honestly, the cast in this, I know it's said a million times, but it rings true. It's phenomenal. Everybody
Absolutely.
delivers at all points.
Absolutely. Well, so from your perspective then, so knowing hilariously, so I swear there are just like years worth of TV shows that I have like missed out on, whether it was because I was too cheap to have cable or I was working the night shift or whatever. So I missed out on that whole Fox phenomenon. But so how did you feel watching Knives Out? And like I mean, and again, like he shows up on the screen and his name is Ransom, which is, of
No,
course his middle name.
I
But like
know.
like like he's so set up so
Evil?
perfectly.
Yeah.
Yes. So, like, how did your 15-year-old heart take that?
Well, what's really funny is that I did not know this when I was 15, but he's actually my friend from high school's cousin, like in actual life. So, like, I'm from New England and everybody's related. And so, like, I didn't know that he's my friend's cousin. And so, like, like, now that I know that he's my friend's cousin, like, some of the shine gets, taken off of these movie stars.
Yes.
But one of the things that I love about this movie is that it takes place in New England and really plays with the British conceit in cozy mysteries or private investigator mysteries that family dynasty is incredibly important. And it was filmed all around a part of Massachusetts that I am very familiar with. A lot of it was in like Natick and these really smaller suburbs of Boston. And again, I know that Chris Evans is from Boston, so I'm sure that's another thing that really drew him to the script of just like playing with that waspishness, with that new money thing, with the closed nature of New England towns, all of that comes into play here. And actually don't know, and I should look this up really quickly, where Rian Johnson is originally from. But I
Yeah.
didn't think he was a Yankee, but he's really good at playing with all of that. He's from Maryland, so like this,
So this is
yeah,
so
third
he
tip
so
of the East
he
Coast.
he understands the he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, like, obviously mid Atlantic, different from the very, very, very Yankee,
Mhm.
culture. But, people like to group all the small states together. And so he definitely understood what was happening in while he was setting it there. And so I think that's really cool. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and it just I mean, it's such a that whole house, the grounds, I mean, it's
Yeah.
such a visually again, I really, in my rewatch 'cause, I mean, that's what I like about movies, and when I was younger, I always used to, like I have comfort movies, I don't know if you have comfort movies,
Oh,
things
yeah.
that you go like you watch over and over and over again, and I had not rewatched Knives Out until, in preparation of this, and it's just, like, the layers of, like, the props that they used, I mean, everything
How
is
that
sumptuous.
How that movie did not win an Oscar for production design still makes me mad. The production
Yeah.
design of that Gothic house was so spot on and so beautiful. Again, there's lines throughout the thing, like at the end where, he goes like our ancestral home and,
That
Benoit
was
Blanc laughs. Was like, you bought this from Pakistani real estate developers in the 80s. And just to know how much money Harlan must have put into making the house look like that in a scant 40 years adds a whole another layer of detail to the movie. And you're just like, gosh, dang it, Ryan Johnson, you are so good at this.
Cause yeah, up until that point, you think to yourself, "Oh, yeah, this isn't the ancestral home. They've always lived here." And but yeah, it really puts a spin on it where it's so interesting because one of the things that, like, really struck me when I was watching this movie is just the entitlement of that family.
It's off the charts,
It's
man.
just ridiculous. I mean, like, and I don't remember being so annoyed the first time I watched it,
I
but this
know.
time I'm just like, "My gosh, Michael Shannon, I expect more out of you."
Seriously, he's so good in this that
I
like
love Michael Shannon.
there is no one who is a bad actor in this, and it actually, like,
Yes.
is frustrating because you want someone to be a weak link, and there's no one
No,
who's a weak link, and Michael Shannon he can do evil, you know what I mean?
he
Like,
can
that
do
man
evil.
can do seething, "I'm gonna suck your soul out" evil, but this isn't that evil, it's just mediocrity, and it's devastating, it's devastating.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and it's just the one okay, so but you know what? The one thing I really wish, like and of course there was no room to do this. I really wish we could have seen more out of, like, the dynamic with his wife. And again, I
Yeah,
don't because, like, there was such a spotlight put on Don Johnson and Jamie Lee Curtis's that relationship and the infidelity. But I'm just like I found myself watching Michael Shannon, Walt and his wife, and I'm like,
yeah.
man alive, what is there? And I almost wish that they could have just given just a little
Yeah.
bit more
What
there.
are they like when they go home? Because, I think it's Ricky Lindholm who plays his wife, and she's wonderful. She's on Wednesday.
Oh,
Tall.
okay.
Yeah, she's
Again,
really
another zeitgeist that I'm missing out on. I know that I have time, but it's just there are so many wonderful television and wonderful
actually
movies and wonderful books.
don't watch a lot of television. Like, really, look, I've seen the first season of Wednesday, and then I was like, that's enough. Yeah, I'm good. Like,
Yeah.
fantastic.
I
Um,
I yeah, well, but it has Steve Buscemi in it, and that's why I'm like, I need to get there because I
yeah,
speaking of Shannon, I mean,
yeah, it's a
Boardwalk
type.
Empire.
Yeah,
It is.
exactly. Oh my gosh, that was a hell of a show. Okay. I was like,
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, I know,
yeah,
right?
no,
Knives
but
Out.
like,
Knives
yeah,
Out.
but Knives Out, I love it because the private investigator is such and I don't think it gets as much attention or like he's the gentleman sleuth. He's got the write up in the New Yorker, which like why
Mhm.
would the New Yorker be writing about a Southern gentleman sleuth? That would never happen. But of course, if any publication is going to be writing about a Southern gentleman sleuth, it's the New Yorker because who else is going to do it?
Of
But
course.
like the gentleman sleuth is such a weird genre to play with right now because like there are no gentlemen who has the means to do it, because he is getting hired. He is getting a chunk of cash, but that's more of a private investigator thing. So the lines are blurry lines. But like, so he's getting paid. He's got an envelope full of cash and he like makes the motion with his fingers that it's a thick envelope full of cash, but he's described as a gentleman sleuth. And it's like, that's such a weird combination because gentleman sleuths do it for essentially the love of the game, whereas private investigators only do it for the money. So you actually have this like conflict, I think, in the original Knives Out. It was like, is he doing it because he loves truth or is he doing it because he got an envelope full of cash in order to show up?
That's a good question. Well, and so when you ask that, or when you were teeing that up, what it made me think of is how does that gentleman sleuth narrative and how does that play out? Because again, thank you, Ryan Johnson, for giving us 3 movies. And I'm sure
Yeah,
there will, because Hollywood loves a franchise. They just do.
they just do.
They just do. So, and I think you also one. Okay, I thought your question was going actually in a bit of a different direction
Answer that
because
question.
what I thought it was Knives Out kind of got a little overshadowed because another gentleman sleuth made his way onto the silver screen once again, which would have been Kenneth Branagh in Murder on the
Yeah.
Orient. And that wasn't that like so? Knives Out came out in 2019.
Hmm.
Orient, I think, was 2018.
Yeah.
I think. Gotta look that up. But anyway, but it was interesting because so now I'm thinking in that context of what is it, there are
It
no
was
gentlemen sleuths now.
2017.
Oh, was it
Yeah.
17? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my
but
god.
people didn't like it. They were like, like, I think when Branagh sort of decided he was gonna bring back Poirot, like, a lot of people were like, "Why?" Because Poirot, especially Murder on the Orient Express, is very like, we're obscenely wealthy. Are,
Mhm.
I like the Albert Finney movie. I've never seen the Branagh one because again, we also started getting into like purity of casting, which like, there were some real scummy people in both the first one and the second one.
Yes,
Poor,
unfortunately.
poor Kenneth Branagh.
We didn't know that at the time. And no, I know. I hear you because I loved Murder, but then things just happened. So
Yeah.
poor
Yeah.
poor Branagh. I'm sure
You
he's
know
going to be
when
fine though.
exactly. I mean, when Branagh, who like a lot of people didn't like him for a long time because he cheated
Mhm.
on Emma Thompson with Helena Bonham Carter, and when that's just seen as like, oh, that's normal compared to like the rest of the cast members.
Well, and it's interesting because, like, Branagh, he's always too. I mean, I've been like low key obsessed with him for a million years because one of my
Much
favorite
ado.
movies is Dead Again,
Ooh,
and him and Thompson, Andy Garcia. I love Andy Garcia. That movie is so fantastic. But the thing is that he's a young upstart,
yeah,
and that was like Britain didn't know what to make out of him because again, speaking of people who are fabulously wealthy, he came from none.
yeah,
It's almost the same thing with Daniel Craig. Like how dare he play James Bond? He's
right.
blonde and
Yeah,
he's
he's very working class coded. He is like,
exactly. But so to
yeah,
see these two men, although actually that's interesting. I didn't realize Albert Finney was in the original Orient. Like I
yeah,
like
with like
it's
the really greasy mustache. Like personally, I think Suchet is the best Poirot, the television Poirot, and then I really like Peter Ustinov in the movies. I don't like Albert Finney in Murder on the Orient Express. I find that representation of Poirot to be really disgusting. Like
I'm
he's
gonna have to
very
find that.
greasy. He's very sort of like uncouth. Pardon me, like I don't like it. But Agatha Christie actually said that Albert Finney as Poirot in Murder on the Orient Express was spot on for how she saw Poirot in her mind. Yeah.
Wow. Because like, I guess, I mean, I'm a Finney stan too. Oh gosh.
Yeah,
Who
I know.
who don't I love in this conversation? Because you say Finney, I think Miller's Crossing and the
Yeah.
best usage of, again, song placement, Oh Danny Boy.
But yeah,
That is just so gorgeous.
perfect.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so but bring it back to the whole Knives Out thing. I love what you said about the gentleman sleuth. And because you think about what do we see in contemporary mystery right now in terms of you got your Bosch, you got your like the grit is
Yeah.
seems to be the goal. And to have this refinement,
Mhm.
I mean, I'm never sad to see it though, because again, it's just it feels like that Knives Out is the kind of movie you do. Like for me, if I had time, I can see it becoming a comfort watch because the sumptuous, like that house,
Yeah.
just watching it over and over again to see the various layers. There's so many things there that are
Yeah.
it's just a treat for the
Yeah.
brain and for the eyes.
Yeah, like, everybody is there dressed to the nines, like, nobody is ever in, like, sweats, even though they're hanging out with their family, like, I don't know, but I don't wear suits and, like, heels when I'm around my siblings, like, nuh-uh, like, I'm wearing flip-flops, like,
If I
and
did that, my brother
sweatpants.
would be like, "What's wrong with you?
Yeah,
Go die."
exactly. Is there a camera that I don't know about somewhere? Like, it's just ridiculous. Yeah, and I personally am not super connected with grit lit. Like, it's not, like, super high on my, like, feelings to attain when I'm writing. I like the polish. I do really connect with, like, this idea that the sleuth or the person who's doing the investigating has this sort of like nonviolent competence. It's brain rather than brawn. Like they're not going to
Mhm.
throw fists. And I feel like Gritlit has a tendency to be like, like you read a lot and they're always like, I'm a former Green Beret. And you're just like, everybody was not a former Green Beret. Like stop, roll it back.
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere. I had no idea they were just lurking, just everywhere. I
You're
don't
gonna
know.
go to the grocery store and you're gonna
Yeah,
they're everywhere.
exactly.
They're just hiding
Exactly.
there behind the, the soda cases. They're just, like, chilling out in
Exactly.
produce.
All those Coke cans that they arranged to look like, I don't know, like goalposts during football, and he's just, like, silently lurking to help me get my Diet Coke off the shelf.
And just to make sure that you're safe.
Exactly. Exactly. In
I'm
my
going to protect
suburban
the world.
California grocery store.
You
But
never know.
no, I love the polish of this. It's so okay, Daniel Craig's accent is a little goofy. Like,
The
it
foghorn leghorn.
but the fact that they keep making fun of it, or they have Chris Evans keep making fun of it while he turns on the Boston every now and then, like, it's
Mhm.
not bad, but it's there, and you're just kind of like, "Really? We are gonna have the subtle discussion of class distinction when it comes
Yeah.
to Southern versus Northern." Like, Yankee versus Kentucky is happening here.
Mhm. And again, so many layers though, because it's interesting how the Thrombleys just it's so much them versus the world.
Yeah.
And as much as they have enough money, or they did, to, all of them to be supported by daddy, it's just really funny how they look down upon anybody who's not part of their rarefied air. And,
Yeah.
oh, they love Marta, but it's
The
just
running joke of them not knowing what country she's from is absolutely one of the funniest things I have ever seen on screen.
and again, there was something that I totally missed my first watch, and then I'm like, "Oh,
Really.
oh." I'm like, "You guys are just you're abhorrent.
They're
You're
they're
ass
terrible.
they're
And I love
assholes."
the fact how actually they're very respectful to the black police officer while being wildly disrespectful to Marta, whom they pay, because they know that he has power over them in some
Mhm.
capacity. Like they're not terribly rude to him at really any point during the investigation, which is actually normally like a
That
hallmark
tension.
of yeah, the tension between. They're just kind of like, "No, you must do your job. It's fine that you're here," which I thought was actually a really interesting decision.
Well, and it's interesting too, like, so how did none of the family absolutely, like, flip their lid that Harlan, committed suicide?
Yeah.
Because I'm surprised that that wasn't a bigger scandal, uh, to them. Like, it was just like, "Oh,
Yeah, of
So
course.
sad. Ransom
Yeah.
didn't show up for the funeral.
Yeah.
Let's read the
No,
will.
yeah, no, that's a really good point because, one of the things I streamed this off of Prime. I do own the DVD, but I streamed it last night rather
Mhm,
than dig out the DVD because I don't know where it is somewhere in my house.
mhm.
And one of the things that I noticed while watching this, because this was the second or third time I've seen it, but it's the first time I ever watched it with a commercial break. Because thanks Amazon, they got to shoehorn the commercial breaks in. And when the first commercial break happened, it was kind of right after Harlan sets up the whole here's what you got to do, and I'm going to slice my throat. Sorry, spoiler alerts to everybody.
Yeah.
In order to, stop the investigation into you. And I paused it because the commercials were kind of boring. I had to feed my dog and things like that. And I was kind of grumping around the house at my husband. And I was just like, it doesn't make any sense that he would kill himself. If the drugs are going to kill him in 10 minutes, wouldn't, and she already explained that there's going to be signs of an overdose setting in prior to the 10 minutes taking him out, you would just wait 10 minutes and be like, or like 9 minutes, and just like be like, clearly I'm not overdosing. I didn't get the 100 milligrams of morphine. And then the plot stops. And I was really cranky about it. And of course, then I watched the rest of the movie and all of that is explained. But I was so pissed.
It's interesting. Well, so it was kind of fun on my rewatch. And again, I have this one nephew who I one time told him I was like starting some television show series. And he's like, to be able to watch that again from the very beginning. He's like, what a gift. I'm like, well, that was really philosophical of you, my 27-year-old freeloader, but keep going.
What a
He's gonna be
gift.
like the gift. But the thing is like I I was really trying to remember. Like, it was fun because there were so many things that I remembered, but in my rewatch, I could not remember, like, exactly who did what and when and how and where, and so it was a gift to watch it
Yeah.
again. It but, it is interesting though too, like, I'm trying to remember, like, because I remember watching it for the first time. My husband and I have this tendency of we will catch up on all of the pop culture things that we've missed at Christmas. And during the holiday season, it's just what we do. We will become one with our couch and we will watch all of the
That's the
things
way to do it.
just once a year. And I remember the first time that I watched that and here's I should not confess this as a mystery writer, but I will. I am one of those people, like, if I'm watching CSI or if I'm watching whatever TV show it is, I never know who the murderer is. I
Really?
don't I do not think that through. But whereas my husband will walk in and be like, "He did it." And I'm
Yeah,
like, "Okay, well, it's
exactly.
it's not fair that the very visible guest star who is in
Right.
everything is the murderer."
Like
I'm like,
every Columbo episode ever. It's like, I recognize you from a movie from 1946. So
"Oh,
clearly
you
you're the
must have
bad
done it.
guy.
You're the villain." But, like, I remember, like, one thing that I will say, again, looking back, trying to remember what it felt like in 2020, which is in the midst of the pandemic, like,
Mhm.
or, like, because I think that was part of it too, was I liked the biting social commentary, from some of the family members in terms of, like
Yeah.
like, how amazing that Rian Johnson came out swinging against an administration that was putting,
Yeah.
babies in cages and
Yeah.
separating families
Yeah.
that first time around.
Yeah.
I just remember, like, I remember being in awe of some of that and, like, again, seeing that again, was like, "Oh,
Yeah. And nothing's changed.
good
It's only gotten
good
worse. Yeah,
let's go."
exactly.
Um, Good art should always hold up a mirror and make you be like, put you in some sort of discomfort. I mean, enjoyable art too, like, don't get me wrong, I do love me some brain candy. I love frothy things.
Yeah.
I'm all about that kind of thing, although my comfort watch right now is Peaky Blinders.
Different kind of comfort. We all fantasize about beating the living snot out of people, and there's
Well,
nothing you can do.
same thing though, like the other way. I think I told this to Lawrence Allen, and he was just like, "What is wrong with you?" Because my other comfort is I love I love the John Wick movies.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Yep.
And so yeah, so, I mean, but
Similar.
anyway, yeah, just I mean, just there's something about it. I love frothy things, but I love me some John Wick. And you bring it back to the Knives Out, Ana de Armas, who plays Marta, was
Yeah.
in John Wick's Ballerina, and
Yes,
I'm
she
like,
was.
because like, it was funny, I didn't recognize her when I was watching Ballerina, but then I'm like, "Who is that actress?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, she kicks ass.
She
Holy
kicks
wow.
ass.
She can take
A
out Keanu."
she is not afraid of anything. For her to kind of come onto the scene with this very sedate movie, her role in it, aside from the just A plus level fake projectile vomiting that she managed to pull off, like she's very demure in this. She's very meek. Even when she does start to stand up for herself, at the behest of Harlan, who suggests, like you do this, 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 and this. And she's like, I can't do it. And then all of a sudden she's realizing like she has to erase the videotape. She has to mess up the footprints. She has to do all these things. And Harlan didn't tell her to do that. She figured it out herself. Like that sort of growth that happens is still, it's a very quiet exercise of power. And I think that's one of the most wonderful things. Like the moment in the movie where they're having conversations about immigration and Don Johnson he did this himself. It's not in the script and it wasn't at the request of Rian Johnson. He hands his empty plate to Ana de Armas, who's standing there, who he summoned over to talk about how she immigrated correctly. And then he hands her the dirty dish and she just takes it. And you can tell in that moment that she's just like, I would love to shove this down your throat, but I'm not going to because she's so quietly powerful in this. Honestly, like couple months ago, I was researching something that I was writing, and there's a quote from Ryan Johnson that goes around. It's referenced in a couple different Guardian articles, and it honestly pisses me off. So, Ryan Johnson, who's worth $100 bajillion and has a better career than I will ever have ever in my life, you said something that burnt my toast a little bit. And he was talking about Agatha Christie and how like he grew up reading Agatha novels and she's the second best-selling author of all time next to the Bible. Like she's just this incredibly powerful cultural thing that we're always going to have to deal with in our lives. But he has a quote that says she was not an incredibly political or socially conscious writer. And I just want to say, sir, that is bullshit. That is absolute horseshit because you don't write mystery unless you're a socially conscious person.
Well, and it going back to and this is one of the things that I was reading about because I was interested again, like because we have lived a lifetime since 2019. Let us be
Yeah.
clear, we have had such a sea change of everything, and I really wanted to see like how was again knowing that Orient came out in 2017 and you have Brana doing his his
Yeah.
thing,
And
and
it
then
didn't do well at the box office.
I know. Well, compared to Knives Out, which this helped catapult, this is part of Jamie Lee Curtis's late stage career resurgence that,
Yeah.
obviously also includes her Oscar. But I was looking back to see, like, in 2019, how did people receive this movie? And did they understand the homage that Ryan Johnson
Yeah.
was doing, even though he doesn't understand that, yes, she has social, political, all of the things. She's
Yeah.
socially conscious and aware. Um, it was really interesting because one of the criticism or one of the I think that wasn't a criticism, one of the think pieces that I was like reviewing was it was talking about how Ryan Johnson gets what Agatha Christie did in terms of the storied family, those people of
Mhm.
wealth and the haves and the have-nots. And so for him to say that feels disingenuous because, dude, you nailed it with the haves and the have-nots. You
Exactly.
know, like Agatha Christie must have been on to something to have created
Yeah.
the worlds that she has that you wanted to help replicate.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think she was more conservative than a lot of people
Yes.
who are writing mystery now. She truly believed, even though she was anathema to this, in the like gender roles, and she really did not like Jewish people, and she was very racist. You read a
Mhm.
lot of her books, but to tie this into the Branagh sort of Poirot thing that's been happening simultaneously with Rian Johnson's movies is Halloween Party, the book that Haunting in Venice is based off of, is an extremely political book. It's a completely different plot than what happens on screen. But I wrote a thing about it on my website, which you can go and find. But the book is entirely about a slightly like somewhat sexually promiscuous teenage girl being murdered, and how the entire suburban village that she's living in being like, yeah, but she was distasteful, so we don't really mind that she was murdered. And Agatha Christie and Poirot and Ariadne Oliver are really struggling with the fact that like everyone seemed to hate this little girl, and it's not okay that she was murdered just because she was a modern little girl who like didn't follow the demure rules of like the 1950s, not the 1960s that were
Mhm.
changing in the moment. And it's a deeply feminist, political, questioning book. Of course, that's all thrown aside for the gorgeous like set pieces of Venice. And I really genuinely liked the movie, but it was like, this is a really political book. And so I'm just kind of like, why would you assume that someone who maybe didn't tell you who to vote for or choose a political party, if you're talking about justice, you're talking about politics. And that's just been, I don't understand why you would say that Agatha wasn't a political writer. Like, if you're talking about justice, if you're talking about murder and you're talking about politics, you are a political writer through and through.
Right, and again, like, I hope he was misquoted, although he
Yeah,
probably was not. We
probably
have
not.
these things are taped. So,
Yeah.
no, yeah, it's bless him and his $100 million heart.
Yeah, exactly. No, I am glad that, I remember watching Brick, which is like his first movie. It's a
Never
detective
seen that
sort
one.
of neo-noir movie that came out starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It's really, really interesting. He made the movie when he was very young. It's a really fascinating movie. And so it's very clear that he has been obsessed with the mystery construct. And Brick is Joseph Gordon-Levitt is a teenage boy, and I think his girlfriend goes missing, and he decides that he's gonna sort of crack the case. It's a little bit surreal, and I haven't watched it in a long time, and I remember it just being very kind of like fuzzy because it's very darkly lit, very darkly shot, and I only had a 10-inch CRT television for most of my life until I was in my 30s. I either didn't have a television or I only had like a tiny, teeny, tiny one, so I barely remember this movie that I watched when I was in college. But he's playing a lot with like community justice and again, like not police led investigations. And again, like he's clearly very interested in the machinations of informal investigation, which I find
Yeah.
to be an interesting thing coming from someone who is getting paid boatloads of money in order to make movies.
Oh gosh. Well, so it's so funny that you're talking about your teeny tiny little television because think about how people are consuming media these days in terms of like I go to the like go to an airport, be on a train or whatever, and it's like people are watching things on their TVs, and I'm like you are going to make the eyeglasses industry $1 million because or
Yeah.
millions of dollars, not a million, millions. Because, like, when you think about, like, when you think about how much media you can consume on a small screen, but they don't realize we were the OGs. We
Yeah.
totally
My extremely lo-fi $79 television from Sears. Like, I was very lucky because I know I saw Knives Out in the theater, and it was before everything shut down, and the encompassing nature of it is really something. You feel like you're in the house. You feel like these people are there with you, and you really wish they weren't. And again, like, being very familiar with the places where it was filmed and things like that is like I know it's real. Like, I know that house is real. I know that that bumbling little main street where they go to, like, the derelict laundromat in order to
Yeah.
find Judy Gemstone, who is like I was like, "Where do I know that actress from who's playing Fran?" It's Judy Gemstone from The Righteous
Yeah.
Gemstones. She's amazing. But, like, I know that's real because, this tiny little town that they live in was probably a former mill town, like every single tiny little town in New England. And now that there's no ball bearing mills in like this, it's this derelict little town. And it feels so incredibly real. And I was actually a little upset that that sort of Veritas was kind of tossed out the window for Glass Onion. I have to admit, like, Glass Onion was great. The mystery was really good. Again, everybody in it is fantastic, but like that verisimilitude is shot through the
Yeah.
heart.
Well, okay, so I liked Glass Onion because again, Edward Norton stan, absolutely. And and
Absolutely.
and that whole again, one of the things I'll say about Rian Johnson and his filmmaking process, his casts are just sublime.
I
I
don't know
mean,
how he does it, like, truthfully.
he's just so many beautiful people. I will say I did not enjoy Bringing Up the Dead Man, the
But
last one
Wake
that
Up
he
Dead
did.
Man? I haven't
Wake
seen
Up
it yet. Yeah.
You'll have to watch it and tell me what you think. Although it was interesting, speaking of, like, dreamboats from days gone by, Josh Brolin had a
Yeah.
main and well, I mean, just again, sumptuous cast. You have Glenn Close, you have the hot priest from Fleabag,
Yeah.
just everybody was so gorgeous in it. But I really enjoyed Josh Brolin, but,
Mhm.
like, I was just like and bless Daniel Craig, I feel like sometimes he has obviously, we know he has a chip on his shoulder. He's always been the working class, like,
Mhm.
underdog until, of course, it's like, "Well, but you're James Bond."
But you're also
But
James Bond and you're
you're
married to
just
Rachel Weisz. Like, come on, bud.
yeah, yeah. You are in that rarefied air, of, like, you and Ryan Johnson and all the things, but it's interesting how, his character, the Benoit Blanc, just keeps, like he just keeps notching it up, but one of the sad things for me with the last Knives Out movie was that I really felt like Daniel Craig took kind of a back seat, and I don't know if that was something that was intentional, but it was really, really more about the ensemble cast
Mhm.
versus the investigator himself. And you could probably look back onto Knives Out and say, well, yeah, it's about the people who are trying to figure out what the crime is. We know who did it, but the why
Right.
done it.
Yeah.
But there was not enough Daniel Craig in the last one, in my humble opinion.
I think I haven't seen it yet, but I do think that it's very difficult to strike a balance when you are writing private investigators or like singular sleuth, like he's supposed to be so smart that he can figure it out without writing a superhero. I mean, we do a lot, or just harkening back to Agatha Christie, sometimes when you read Poirot novels, you do sort of get that moment of Sherlockian where it's like, well, if you didn't know that arsenic, it interacts with this in this capacity, or like, I happened to know, like this, and that sort of like not fair play mystery where you're supposed to get all of the clues and the everyday person is supposed to be able to figure it out. That's like held up as like a biblical thing that comes down from Agatha Christie and all the great novelists post Conan Doyle, because a lot of people were rightfully cheesed when, Sherlock Holmes would show up and it was like, actually, I knew that he was heavily invested in this company. And you're just like, no one else did. What the fuck? But
Sherlock, you would not make it in the internet age. You would be
seriously, it would be eviscerated and bullied off of Blue Sky. But it is very difficult to find that space where Benoit Blanc is not coming off as some sort of like super heroic Sherlockian know-it-all. He's a person. Like he just is a guy. And I like that at the end of Knives Out, Marta goes like, "How did you know that, like, I was involved in this in some capacity?" And he goes, "From the moment you stepped in front of me, because he could see the blood spatter on her sneakers." And that is a very human, tangible thing. We just be like, "Oh, he must eat a lot of carrots," like, and he's just super observant, but it's very human, it's terrestrial. You know that a person you feel like that's a real thing that a person can do. It wouldn't for a man in his late 40s or early 50s when they're filming this because them fellas are blind. I'm blind as a bat, and guys don't take care of their eyes. But just as a sweeping statement, but I can see how it would be a struggle over the course of movies that people are going to scrutinize and look for the Easter eggs and look for the clues. to maintain Benoit Blanc's level of infallibility without veering into this is dumb and why are you still doing it?
Well, so speaking of Easter eggs, so I did not realize this, and there's no reason why I would have probably like recognized this person. We were talking about, how Rian Johnson has these amazing casts, and and you had talked about Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I
Mhm.
didn't realize, but one of the things I guess that's a hallmark of Johnson's movies is he will bring back, like, he has the cast that, he has his,
Go-tos.
returning. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But the attorney, the family attorney for is Frank Oz.
Uh-huh.
Well, and it was so funny because, like, of course, I never like, the last time I saw him in a movie was in The Blues Brothers from, like,
Yeah.
whatever year that was, and, I mean, apparently he's aged since then, because 'cause haven't we all?
Since the early 1980s.
But, oh my god, because, like, I'm watching the credits, and I'm like, I told my husband, I'm like, "That was Frank Oz." He's like, yes." I'm like, "I didn't
Yoda
know."
is the lawyer? Like, he's the probate attorney.
He's the probate attorney. I thought that was so cool because, again, Frank Oz just like, that man has given so much joy to this world, so let us
Yeah.
give him his flowers, but he
Yes.
doesn't do enough. We need more Frank
No.
Oz in this world, and
And
I didn't realize.
I love the reading of the will scene because he's so funny. The comedy in this movie, it can both, like, smack you in the face, like, the puking is really gross. It's really disgusting. It's very slapstick. But one of my favorite line readings in the entire movie was they're like, "But we're still in our house." And he's like, "Yes, the house is also
20
left to Marta Cabrera." It's perfect. It's shockingly subtle for the fact that he's also Miss Piggy.
I know, I just it's a again, when I realized it was him, I was just again, Christopher Plummer, love him, love him, love him, love him since the
Yeah.
days of, ripping up Nazi flags.
Yeah.
And so, to have, again, another hero of my childhood show
I
up on
know.
screen, I'm like, "Thank you. This is why this is a comfort watch." Right?
It's so comforting. I do actually think this qualifies as a comfort watch for me, even though I have not watched it like a dozen times since it came out. There is just something so what I do find mystery fiction to be very comforting. And
Mhm.
that's one of the reasons why I write it. It's one of the reasons why I almost exclusively read it. It's probably not great for my brain that all I ever read is murder mysteries. But, you know, Val McDermid, who very famous writer,
Mhm.
she's written essays on, and this is now kind of considered a universal truth of mystery fiction, is that mystery is about resetting order. And so you have thrillers, which are very frequently about sort of setting things back into power. Like thrillers are very much often, especially when you think of like 24 and it's like, oh, the government thriller and things like that. And it's like a lot of that is about power, maintaining power, whereas mysteries is about resetting order. And I really love in this movie that he does not ever try to even glance in the direction that the Thrombies keeping their money is a sense of order. It's not. They are not meant to have it. They are not people who need that much power. This is completely unacceptable. The orderly thing is for the kind woman to get her just desserts. And that's just, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful piece of writing. And it's so calm and gentle at the end.
Well, and I love that part at the end where, Marta is, asking Blanc, like, "Do you think, what should I do? And should I help them?" And, like, 'cause, again, the thing about Marta, what a pure soul. What I mean, like,
Yes.
again, for as much as all of the things that she internally accused herself of and all of that, what a pure soul, and I think Blanc always saw that, again, with the
Hmm.
blood on her sneakers. But I really like, what I like about Blanco is he's like, "Well, I have my opinion." But, like, he's like, "You will choose the right thing to do." And
Yeah.
I liked the agency that he gave her in the end. Like, I really think that one of the things that I really like about Blanc throughout this movie is he the smartest guy in the room? All of these things, but he lets other people have that agency as well.
Hmm.
And it just again, that part at the end, well, I have my opinion, but you will choose the right
Yeah.
thing. And I do like that the right thing is that she's standing up on that balcony
Huh.
with that mug.
Huh. And I think one of my favorite things about this movie too is that he never specifically says, like what Harlan did to you was awful. Like, but you can tell that he has, once he finally gets the proof that she did not poison him and Harlan could have just waited, that thing that I was talking about earlier, where it was like the trauma that Harlan put Marta through, even though Marta is the one he loved, the one he cared about, the person he wanted to protect and to take care of. Uh, Harlan put her through something truly, truly detestable. And I think, not, and not even just like being the center of the family squabbling over money, just like seeing someone you love cut their own throat is a horrifically traumatic experience. And Benoit Blanc's heart is just like, I cannot believe all of this happened to you, and you're still a good person. You're still trying to take care of people. And he you can tell that he's just like, thank God you have money because that might be the only thing that actually protects you for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Well, and I love that part. Like, speaking about, like the money and what it ends up affording you, etc. One of the things that I love was that scene with Michael Shannon Walt when, she's trying to
Mhm.
sneak out of her apartment and he confronts her and he's like, we'll take care of you. We'll get you the right attorneys and all of these things. And she's like, well, now that I have the money, I can take care of myself.
Yes.
I don't know what my favorite part of the movie is, but that actually is up there because you see this bit of fire with Marta that's just like, "Oh my gosh, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you, for
There
doing that."
There is a like, we all talk about the save the cat formula when we're talking about writing and plotting and things like that. And she is true, like that moment where she is being surrounded by news cameras, people have threatened her mother like endlessly. Her mother is being used as a pawn. She's not even treated like a real person with agency who loves her daughters, whose daughters love her back. That Dark Night of the Soul moment when he's just like, I will get your mother deported, and that immediate moment where she's just like, "You have no power," is so beautiful. Like that,
Mhm.
it's rare that the Dark Night of the Soul moment only lasts like 3 seconds. 'Cause, Walt is threatening her and you're just like, "What is he gonna do? Is he gonna hit her with the cane? What's he gonna do?"
Yeah.
The moment where she's just like, "Oh my god, this man is threatening my mother," it doesn't last very long. And it's so good that he doesn't let her stew and linger in the all is lost territory. Marta is not someone who revels in hopelessness.
She's looking for solutions. She's a caretaker.
Mhm.
She's a caretaker, she's solutions oriented, and the other thing too that I like about Blanc, he gives her flowers in terms of she understood what the viscosity was of,
Yeah.
morphine versus whatever the other medication was.
Thingamajig is, yeah.
Like, she's very smart, she's very quiet, and she has this really strong moral compass.
Mhm.
And it Rian Johnson created a character that is so easy to root for. I mean, in what I like about it, it shows itself in quiet moments.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
like, it's like, "Oh, phew."
And, I think that's also something that he really consciously did with Benoit Blanc. In also, again, this also happens in Glass Onion, which is Blanc has, and this is what I think makes him a gentleman sleuth and not a private investigator, is that like he has so much compassion for the women who hire him in those two movies. Again, I haven't seen Wake Up Dead Man yet, but he is just like, you are being wronged. And I will put myself into incredibly dangerous and uncomfortable situations in order to help two women of color who are being grossly abused and misused by powerful people. And it's not subtext. Like Rian Johnson is here going like, my gay white man is going to sacrifice a lot of comfort and prestige and money and whatever in order to help these two women of color. And again, haven't seen Wake Up Dead Man yet, not commenting on that one. But like, it's a beautiful thing that Rian Johnson is just like, I will not shy away from this. This is the text of the movie. And I think that's what really drives him into gentleman sleuth territory and not private investigator. He doesn't need the money. He doesn't care. I'm sure he likes the money, but that's not the driving force behind Benoit Blanc.
Yeah. No, I really do. I'm glad that it's nice to have, again, comparative to the Grit.
Mm-hmm.
It is really nice to have that as something to be able to like jet into that world every once in a while. And it just, again, it makes it a comfort watch in terms of everything's going to be okay in the end,
Yeah.
and in the midst of all of it too, there's this like great story, um kind of convoluted at points, but at the same time, though, that's part of the humor, that's part of the construct.
Yeah.
And again, just grateful that it's something that my kids will watch someday and enjoy. And it's just one
Absolutely.
of those things where, and I also like, because I was thinking about like the whole, you can read an Agatha Christie book and you are transported to a moment in time. We are going to be able to look back, I think, at Rian Johnson's movies. And by the, like, don't do anything stupid, Rian Johnson,
Yeah,
other than
seriously.
what you
Like,
just like. Come on,
hold it together, man.
just don't do anything bad
Yeah.
because I love your
Be
movies.
cool with your cool wife, and that's all we
Be
ask of you.
cool. Be cool, Rian Johnson. But we're going to be able to look back because again, Knives Out. It just, when it came out, what it said about the political situation that we are in the world today. Same thing with Glass Onion, Edward Norton's character. Maybe he matches some other tech icons that we know.
I can't imagine that was pointed
Mm.
towards literally 3 people we can all name.
It's so, I mean, isn't it interesting to think someday that like future generations, again, I always think, art at its finest is one of those things that you can hold up X amount of years later and say, oh,
Mhm.
this is indicative of the time that it was made in.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be these movies. And did Johnson intend to swing for those, those bleachers when he went into it? I think so.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
do too. I do too. And the thing is like if you know, even if you aren't necessarily like, even if you are the Don Johnson character, you're
What a
gonna have
shock.
feelings when you're
Yeah.
watching this movie. Gonna
Yeah.
be probably different than yours and mine, Emily, but
Probably. Just scooch.
just a little bit.
Oh my gosh, I can't thank you enough for choosing this movie. Like I was wondering if anybody was gonna have the chutzpah to choose Knives Out because like they're so modern, they're probably still being made and like they're very political and I'm so glad that we got to talk about it and compare it to like the more like Mystery Ain't Dead and I'm so
No.
glad that Rian Johnson brought it to more modern audiences and put it in a modern lens. It's just thank goodness it happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and especially too, again, and when you thread it with the needle of, the Agatha Christie movies like started, had their
Nearly
their
simultaneously, yeah.
their moment. Poor Kenneth Branagh, although I'm sure
Yeah.
he's fine.
He's still very handsome, and he played
Gosh,
Meryl Streep's husband in Devil's Wears Prada too, and
I haven't
he can
seen that
probably chill it
yet.
with Poirot, but that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But no, I mean, it's really one of those things where I'm glad I'm glad it exists, and again, I remember watching Knives Out in 2020 in the midst of all of the awful pandemic stuff that was going on, and it really was a great escape for the
Mhm.
time, and really truly too one of those things where it's like, oh, it's a good movie for anybody, I think, who like, it's always nice when you see those movies where you can hit like, oh yeah, Save the Cat, Dark Night of the
Mhm.
Soul. It's a good movie to look at and try to figure out how did Rian Johnson do that,
Yeah.
and that's always enjoyable.
Yeah. Shelley, how can everybody keep in touch with you and your work?
Well, so I am probably more active than I need to be on the socials.
Yeah.
I keep
Guilty.
trying. I
I
keep
know.
trying, but my gosh, that Instagram, I tell you, it just gets me every time. I think if I watch it long enough, I'm gonna be able to paint, I'm gonna be able to weave my own rugs and I'm gonna be able to cook. I'm gonna be able
Also
to
be able
make
to get my pit bull to do cute tricks. Like, no, it's
yeah,
not gonna happen. Mm-mm.
exactly. So I think I'm at Shell Kubitz right. That's how you could find me at most everything. Otherwise, going to be about your con in Calgary. Hopefully people will come and say hello and
Yes, I will be there. We'll be
yeah,
probably chilling out
good. Well,
together a little bit. So
so make sure okay, watch the last Rian Johnson, Wake Up the Dead Man? Is that what it was
yeah,
called?
wake up, dead man.
Wait,
Yeah.
Wake Up to see, just terrible. Watch that 3rd watch that 3rd Knives Out movie, and I would love to hear what you think because I think I'm the only person on the planet that didn't like it. Even my
Okay.
husband liked it. So anyway,
Why is the subtext of that is, and he has no taste.
the subtext was he was just like he's like, "You love these movies. You
Yeah.
didn't like this one?" And
Okay.
I'm like, "Maybe I'm an idiot." It just
No. Okay.
I shouldn't
Well,
admit that as a
we'll
mystery
have a
writer.
little powwow at BoucherCon later on this year. So if you're listening and you're going to be at BoucherCon, come find us, and we'll have
Just
we'll find an empty conference room or maybe the bar and talk about it.
exactly. You know what? Great things happen when writers get together and chill out over either a cup of coffee or a cocktail or a mocktail, whatever
Exactly.
works. We're multifaceted that way.
We are.